Have you ever thought, I don't have enough time to get something accomplished? But then you find yourself scrolling on your phone. Now, wait, no condemnation here because I've done it myself. But it is amazing if we reframe the way that we're thinking that I don't have enough time, but you actually do have time that you can be producing content for your audience. And I'm going to show you how with 4 things that you can do instead of scrolling to produce content. Let's get started. All right, so we're going to get started today, and we're talking about 4 things that you can do instead of scrolling on your phone so you can produce content. And I'll say this first is that there's many things that you could do besides scrolling on your phone.
Sure.
I mean, you could spend time with your family. You can be able to go outside and garden. I like to plant flowers.
Yes.
You can take a walk. You can do all kinds of things. But specifically today, we're going to talk about how to be able to recoup that time and help you produce content.
Yes. Do you even scroll?
So I do.
You scroll? What do you scroll? What do you like to scroll, Amber?
So I scroll, I'm mainly on YouTube. So we talked about this because I haven't been on Instagram in
2 years.
2 years,
Yeah,
right?
2 years.
2 years.
It's okay.
Yeah. I thought 1 year, but then
I looked today.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's
It's good. It's good because we also talked about you have to go where you're growing. So if you're
true.
pouring in somewhere else, and Amber loves LinkedIn and
Yes.
has really connected there. So go where you're connected for sure.
Right. It's true. And I took 1 year off and then it just turned into 2 years.
Yeah.
And I find that it is important to take breaks. But
For sure.
I do like YouTube. And we talked about this before. Because I like watching like nonfiction stuff, motivational speakers and like.
So what do you watch on YouTube?
30. So on YouTube, I mainly watch, because I was thinking about this.
Yeah.
I was like, am I entertained
Right.
on YouTube? Because we talked about like how I don't.
Yeah. If you missed the last podcast, definitely go back and listen because you will learn a really fun fact about Amber that she doesn't really like entertainment. And it's good. You also will get some really good things that she's going to talk about today. But
right. But the funny thing is I do entertainment because my husband and I, we've been doing sketch comedy for years.
Right.
And with his production company, who is actually, this is brought to you by Dad Chavis Productions.
Yes, thank you, Chad.
Yay, thank you, Chad. But it's funny, I don't really like to be entertained as much as I like learning. But I did notice that with all of the motivational speaking and inspirational stuff, and I'll look through there, and then some how-to things, news, stuff like that. But I do like comedy. I like comedians and sketch comedy.
Okay.
So I'll go on there and like some comedians, like I'll be scrolling like family-friendly comedians or family-friendly sketch comedy stuff. And so I do like that. I do enjoy that.
Okay. I love jokes. I love comedy.
Okay.
It's so good.
Yes.
Do you
well, what else? What do you scroll?
Oh, goodness. I get stuck on Instagram a lot. Yeah. Instagram is good. I love to see just like pretty videos, pretty pictures. I love Pinterest. And that's where I get a lot of my inspiration from for like home decor and outfits.
Right.
And that's really where like I feel inspired by is like really beautiful pictures of flowers and just I like a curated photo. I really do. And I like to create that in my house. And something I like to talk about a lot and get inspiration from is like romanticizing the little things. So even in like the mess of motherhood, I like a little pretty moment with my coffee cup and flowers.
Okay. And you like that picture, the aesthetics
yes,
of it.
the aesthetics of it. I love that.
Yes,
sure.
I can see that because you're very good at decor.
Yeah, I love it. I love it so much. And so, but I get stuck there sometimes where I just get in what I call the doom scroll. And I just keep scrolling and watching. And then I have to stop and think, well, what did I even learn? What have I learned from this? So, and I know you're going to talk a little bit about that today.
Yes.
So tell us, what are 4 things we can do instead of scrolling?
Yes. Okay. So we do want to hear from you about like, if, we're talking about like what we like to scroll, but you can put in the comments, things that, that you like to scroll or things that maybe you see. I mean, it could be a time waster. Like if it starts feeling like a time waster, put that in there if it's something that you like.
Or even the inspiration that you get.
That's true.
We want to know about it.
Inspiration, yeah. So I was thinking about this, about scrolling. The other day, I was just sitting here at my desk, and I was scrolling.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, okay, what could I be doing instead of this? And I do some things, like you said, when I'm scrolling, I do some things intentionally
Mhm.
that help me to produce content. And I started writing them down. I was like, oh, I bet this might help.
Yeah.
So if you are a content creator and find yourself in that trap of like, I just don't have enough time to be able to produce content, that you would be surprised about where you can find pockets of time. I talked
Mhm.
about this on the last podcast about some ideas about that. But when it comes to scrolling, you can actually use time scrolling
Right.
to be able to produce that content. And so I came up with 4 things that you could do that would help you do that. And the first one, and they kind of rhyme.
Mhm.
I love alliterations
Yeah.
and I love wording
It
and
makes it
stuff.
easy to
It
remember.
does.
Yeah.
It does make it easy to remember. I did training development for years for different organizations, and I teach too at a homeschool tutorial
Mhm.
in the Nashville area. And so I do love that teaching tip of easy things to remember. So the
Yeah.
first one is patrol. So when you think about an officer, that when an officer is patrolling their beat, their area,
Mhm.
that they're intentional about it. He or she is going to be extremely intentional. They're going to be looking and listening to see what is going on. They're going to be observing, but they're
Mhm.
not just observing just mindlessly.
Right.
They're intentional. And I think about our dog. We have 2 Aussie
Mhm.
Doodles. And well, one Aussie Doodle, because his mom was an Aussie Doodle and his dad was a full standard poodle. So he's huge. He's very tall. And then we have another, she is an Aussie, or not Aussie, what are they called? Bernie Doodle. And these
Mhm.
were both gifted to us. These are fancy dogs that were gifted to us.
They're cuties.
They're cuties. They're just giant.
That's true.
And so Tux is our Aussie Doodle, and he's 7. And we call him the sheriff.
Mhm.
And the reason why we call him the sheriff is because he patrols. He's a patroller in our house.
Really?
Yes, he's like that on Monsters Inc. I'm always
Yeah.
watching you, Wazowski.
Yeah.
Always watching.
It's a good
So
movie.
it is a good movie. So he's always watching, he's always observing, he's very intentional. And even when we have video production at our house, that he'll go around and touch the people that are there, like on their knee with his nose or
Mhm.
their elbow. And we found out that he's counting people. He's very intentional about what he's doing. And so when I was thinking through this about patrol, is that when you're scrolling, just hopefully my voice will be in your head for just a few minutes, like when
Yeah.
you're scrolling, and the word patrol will come in. And that patrol is start being intentional. Look and listen and watch for how people are sharing their content specifically.
Right.
How are other people sharing their content?
Mhm.
So, and you will start to notice, and we talked about this last time on the podcast, you will start to notice that most people that are sharing their content, they're content creators,
Mhm.
they're teachers, they're maybe selling something, or they're trying to be able to influence you in an area
Mhm.
or encourage you in an area. They start with a problem
Right.
and then they give you a quick fix to that problem. And that's typically how it is framed in their short.
Mhm.
And those shorts are typically, I don't know, on Instagram, how long is a reel? I can't
Like
remember.
30,
30
30
seconds
seconds max. Most of them are
max.
like 8 seconds now.
Right.
Yeah.
So they could be 8 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds on YouTube,
Mhm.
but they're solving a problem. And then they're giving you like a quick fix to that problem.
Yes.
Or it could just be fun, it could be something funny. But if you're talking about creating content like that, typically it's something about, doing that. And I'm going to balance this by saying that on Instagram or on LinkedIn or YouTube or whatever you're using, that you balance that sharing content for the purposes of uh, informational
Mhm.
purposes with also some fun stuff.
For sure.
People,
Yes.
show themselves walking on a beach or whatever.
Sure.
But the majority of your content is going to be intentional to get a message across.
Right.
And so do that by sharing that problem
Mhm.
and solving that problem. So just start noticing that. And you'll really begin to start seeing, wow, they did solve
Mhm.
problems. Even commercials will do that. So
Yeah.
I remember a commercial that I saw recently where this guy's like putting on a hoodie and he's putting on like 5 different hoodies
Yeah.
and he just can't get comfortable. And then he puts on this last hoodie and it's like the most comfortable. And the problem that they were solving was that you had this one hoodie that could do all the things that all
Mhm.
your hoodies do,
Yeah.
comfortability wise and comfort, all the things. So it's a problem that they're solving. So
Mhm.
commercials do that too. And number two, so if the first one is patrol, number two is enroll.
Okay.
And enroll is whenever you enroll in a class, like you're taking a Bible class,
Yeah.
or if you're taking a class, that you want to be intentional about how you're organizing your notes
Mhm.
so that you can go back to them later to be able to apply them to take a test or apply them for real life impact,
Right.
however you want to do that. So enrolling, you want to be intentional about how you're organizing those notes that you're
Mhm.
taking, those
Mhm.
thoughts. And so one of the things that I like about YouTube, because I'm on YouTube a lot, looking and doing these things, patrolling or enrolling, is that when I watch a video that's informational, that I'm like, I can use that. Like I'll use
Yeah.
this as an example. When my husband started his video production company, I help content creators also on here give information and to be able to help with work-life balance. But I also have clients that I help with branding and marketing
Mhm.
and business setup and time management, all those things. So I did that for my husband. I
Mhm.
set up his business. So when I did that and I'm looking for information about setting up a business, LLCs, all the different things, when I would come across a video on that, at the bottom of YouTube, there's a place where you can click, it says save, and there's a plus button. You can create a folder. And so I'd create a folder about business setup,
Yeah.
and then you drop it in there. And then I'd watch the video for the first like 30 seconds, 45 seconds to see if this is a video that was going to help me.
Mhm.
But it would save me time. You're saving the video to save you time.
Right. So you're not watching it twice.
That's right. Because you're going to pull it up later when you're actually applying
Mhm.
that content.
That's good.
So that will help you. And I know you said the same thing on Instagram. You can do
Yeah,
that.
you can do. I mean, it's like the original Pinterest board, right? You can create categories and boards for your Pinterest, but the same thing you can do on Instagram with Reels or a regular post. There's a save button at the bottom, and you can create different categories, and that's where I save a lot of my inspiration because Reels
Right.
are really short. So if I see something that I'm like, oh, I kind of want to create that in a different way, I just save it for later so I can come back when I'm actually creating content.
Right. And so what you're doing is you're actually being more intentional with your scrolling because you're
Yes.
saving time by doing that
Right.
instead of having to re-find it again.
Yes. Right.
Because most of the time, this is a whole nother topic, but most of the time that we waste time by touching things too many times.
Yeah.
And that's with paper, and I could do a whole thing about that.
Yeah, if you want to hear
But
about that, let us know in the comments.
yes, yes. So if we touch it too many times, we're wasting time. We can
Mhm.
save a lot of time there. So number three is, so we got patrol, enroll, and then number three is cajole.
Cajole.
And this is an actual word.
It's a real word.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was looking up rhyming words for patrol,
Mhm.
and I was like, oh, cajole, that's a fun word. And then I looked it up, and another word for cajole is influence.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I want to share, because part of you scrolling and you're patrolling and looking
Mhm.
for this information, and you're intentionally looking, and then you enroll and you're saving this information.
Yes.
Then what are you going to do with the information that you saved,
Right.
that content that you saved? And you want to use it in a way that can be able to help your audience.
Mhm.
So what you do, one of the best things to do is to be able to create topic categories for the problem that you're solving. So we've
Okay.
talked about this on the podcast before, is that you're solving a problem. So once you identify the problem that you're solving, like I'm solving the problem for content creators by helping them get their creative ideas out into the world.
Right.
Okay. Whatever problem that you're solving, that then you create 5 pillars. A lot of YouTube people call them pillars. You
Mhm.
can call them themes. You can call them topics. You can call them silos. I just call them topic categories.
Yeah.
But 5 different topic categories is a good place to start. If you can't think of 5, think of at least 3.
Mhm.
But start thinking of 5 different categories. And I put these in my notes app.
Okay.
So if I am solving the problem of content creators getting their creative ideas out into the world, then time management is definitely one of those
Right.
topics.
Right.
So as an example, then anything that I come across that I'm scrolling or that I'm saving or whatever, then I can, in my notes app, like take my notes and put it into
Mhm.
that category.
That's
So
good.
you are siloing in now How are you going to influence people by the information that you're looking at scrolling? You're like, oh, that's a good idea. I mean, just like number 4, I got from scrolling.
Yeah.
And I typed it in my notes app under this topic.
Right.
So I was like, okay. So that's just an example of having those 5 pillars.
I like that too, because I have a bunch of ideas in my notes app, but they're not organized in a way where you see like what categories you're heavy on or where, and having that good organization. So that's
And
great.
you'll surprise yourself. You'll be shocked because you'll go into your notes app
Yeah.
and then you'll just start thinking, okay, what are these? And then all of a sudden you start seeing a pattern within those notes that you're taking that they're going to fit in those
Categories.
they're going to fit in some kind of category.
Right.
And you're like, oh, wow. And then once you start doing that and you start filling that, then you're like, well, this is kind of heavy over here.
Right.
But then as you look at that, you're like, you know what, though? If I tweak that a little bit, it actually fits better over here.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
And so you can really start, or even better, what's so awesome, because from ideas come ideas. So the one that you have in that category, then you're like, well, there's a side topic about that I think would work good over here.
Right.
Or it's amazing like how many you can drill down, because most of the time our topics, and I'm getting real deep here, but I've got to say this, most of the time our topics, those topic categories, and then those ideas that you have, most of the time those ideas can actually be broken into like 3 different other pieces of content.
Yes, that's so good.
Because it's too much.
Yeah.
Like what I'm sharing today, I started with like a different set, and this is a broken off part of a whole nother thing that I've created like 4 other different topics.
That's so good. And that's why it's important to keep a notes or something, whatever you're using, paper or your actual phone, and so that you can see that. That's great.
It's
I love that, Amber.
So then, so number 4, this is where number 4 came about. It's number 4, actually, while I was scrolling, this came to me. It's be Billy Joel. And yes.
Don't actually become Billy Joel.
Yeah, because I don't think that's legal.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think that. I'm going to drink some tea. We're actually drinking tea today.
Tea. Are you a tea drinker or coffee drinker, people? Let us know.
Yes, please. I'm a tea drinker. And Logan.
I like both.
Yes.
Just lean both. I like coffee and tea.
So I definitely got my tea here. But be Billy Joel. So what does that mean? Is that I was scrolling the other day and I came across this YouTube short, and it was Billy Joel being interviewed, and he was talking about this. And the really cool thing that he was sharing is that he sells out stadiums. Like he's an amazing composer, singer, all the things. And you may not listen to Billy Joel, but you know that he's like a big name composer, singer from the 80s, 90s, and beyond. So he's selling out stadiums. So one of the things that he shared that he does is the very front row of his stadium. Every time he goes to these concerts, he does this. His very front row. Well, I'm assuming. I don't know if he continues to do. I won't say that Billy Joel does this every single time.
Right.
Because
You're just sharing.
He's not one of my friends.
Sure.
So, but
we're gonna take his word for it.
Yes. So he shared this, and on the front row, he blocks off the front row and doesn't allow anybody to sit on the front row. So he doesn't sell any tickets on the front row. Tickets. So then when the concert starts, he has his handlers or his two of his guys, or a couple of his guys, go up to the very, very top in the nosebleed section of the stadium, and they look for the most enthusiastic fans that are just so into it. They're so excited about it.
Yeah.
And they go up to them and they get, and it could be 10, it could be 15, it could be like 20 of them. And they give them the tickets for the front row.
Wow.
And then they come down and they sit on the front row.
Wow.
And they're just shocked and so surprised.
Yeah.
And it was so neat. And as he was sharing that, he said it not only excites them because they have spent all this money, on these tickets, and they can't afford the front row seats.
Right.
That's why they're sitting up there.
Yeah.
And
they just want to be there.
They're just the biggest fans.
Yeah.
They're willing to sit in the nosebleed sections for him.
It's so cool.
And so then they come down and they sit there, but it also blesses Billy Joel because when he's looking out at that front row, because a lot of times when you're on a stage, you can't see, but only the front row because the lights are so bright. He says that when he looks in their faces, he knows that these people are so excited to be there and that he got to be a part of helping them and encourage them and blessing them.
That's so good.
It's so good.
It's so
Instead
good.
of the person that's like a bazillionaire that is like, they could have been anywhere and they're just
Yes.
sitting there scrolling on their phone.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
and then happen to be
You're like,
listening to
"Ah."
Billy Joel, But that's just so awesome. So when I say be Billy Joel,
Mhm.
remember why you do it.
Yeah. Be an
Why are you
encourager.
creating this content?
Yeah.
So when you're on your phone and you're scrolling and you're patrolling and you're enrolling and you want to cajole, you want to
Yeah.
influence these people, remember, okay, why are you doing this?
Mhm.
Why are you spending the time, creating the content that you're creating?
Right.
Because there's somebody out there that's hurting from the problem that you have the answer to.
Yeah.
And you can help them.
Yeah.
And they're just waiting for you to be able to encourage them and give them the answer that they're desperately seeking. They
Mhm.
want the answer to the problem. And you have, been able to, I believe with God, with the wisdom that you've been given, the gifts and the talents that you've been given to
Right.
solve this particular problem. And
Right.
you can help other people do it.
Right.
So remember why you're doing it.
That's so good.
So it
That's so good.
really encourages.
And I think
people.
I think some people think that, well, I only have 50 followers or
Right.
5 subscribers or whatever. But if those people are interacting and they're commenting and they're liking your posts and they're asking you questions, interact with those people and take, every person that you talk to is someone you can encourage.
That's
and
right.
encouragement normally helps you more than it helps the other person.
Yes.
It just fills your tank. So it's
It's
so good.
so true. And I've heard somebody say this one time, and I loved it, is that if you have 5 followers and they were, online, you're like, oh, I only have 5 followers or 5 subscribers or whatever. But if those people were in your living room, how ecstatic would you be that there's 5 people that showed up to your house for you to be able to encourage and help
Right.
give them the answer to the problem that they are dealing with.
Right. That's so true.
You'd be so ecstatic, but for whatever reason, they're online and we have a disconnect. So just try to not disconnect, but connect with those people.
That's so good. Yes.
So.
Connection. And I think we put that screen up between us, but it's really all about connection
Right.
and how you help them. It's
And
so good.
that's why we want you to leave your comments and let us know. And
Yes,
we're going
please.
to connect with you.
We love connecting with you.
Yes. And so also to be able to help you, I want to connect with you right now to go to amberndavis.com, amberndavis.com, and get my free teaching on how to plan your week, the best way that you can plan your week. It's a quick video and there's a guide and checklist for you that will help you plan out your week so that you can be intentional, so that you can go all small for big productivity, balanced, intentional, go-getting productivity. We're so glad that you joined us today. You could be doing all kinds of things, but you joined us right here. So thank you for being a part of the podcast today, and we'll see you next time. All Small Productivity Podcast is brought to you by myself, Amber N. Davis, using the podcasting platform Buzzsprout, which I highly recommend. Recording and editing is done by my husband's company, Dad Chavis Productions. Thank you so much for joining us today. And remember to go all small for big productivity. We'll see you next week.